burrito in the deep blue sea. Swims so wild and he swims so free. Baby burrito, baby burrito in the deep blue sea. Swims so wild and he swims so free. Greetings one and all to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. I was thinking about a blue binder I had. My mom had gotten it for me when I was fairly young. It had a lot of information about dinosaurs. I really liked that book. However, that book was permanently lost to me when I was married. Occasionally, what can I say, there are complications during marriage, i.e., your spouse will be responsible for belongings of yours no longer existing. Heck, I used to have like 6 different CDs of Dragon Ball Z soundtracks from the Bruce Faulconer collection. Even had a bunch of Blink VHS tapes that I'd bought from a dollar store back when I was a teenager and recorded stuff on the VCR, whether it be me playing PlayStation 1 games. Really no commentary, it was just literally I'm just recording stuff of VCR. Or Dragon Ball Z or various anime. Heck, I remember her breaking the laptop I had back then. She completely shattered the screen on that laptop. But I didn't have any sentimental attachment to that laptop, though I do remember back then I had Steam on that laptop way back when. Different. At least I think it was Steam. I don't know if Steam existed back then. I know I had the earliest version of The Binding of Isaac. You could stack hearts off the screen. I think that was before Wrath of the Lamb even existed. Pretty sure the chest was still floor, but I think that was it. I don't think, like, you had the cathedral, the chest, and Shoal, and I think that was it. I don't think the dark room or Mega Satan existed yet back then. But yeah, she completely shattered that screen on that laptop. But like I said, I had no sentimental attachment to a laptop. However, that book, I appreciated that my mom had got that for me. It may sound weird to everyone out there, but I don't know. As a child, heck, if you want to imagine it, how it might look is, you know that new anime that came out like a year or two ago, gushing over magical girls or something? There's a scene of the character sitting there watching stuff on TV. I watched a lot of stuff when I was younger. I was very interested in many, many topics, including watching the History Channel. Whether it be about natural history, how the weather works, chemistry, biology, World War I, World War II, or things about dinosaurs, or heck, I've been to Air Force museums before. It's really cool to see the different, types of planes from the past. What can I say? I may sound a bit nerdy about things, but I'm the kind of person who likes to go to museums, whether they be art museums, or science museums, or history museums, or they be aerospace museums, or even a museum about like trains and railroads and stuff. Heck, I remember being like 13 years old, going to Washington, D.C. for a week, a school trip, and there was a lot of different museums, art museums, science museums. Heck, there was also a Holocaust museum. And I am Christian, but I'm not Catholic. But I was able to go inside a lot of the Catholic cathedrals that are a couple hundred years old, and I am definitely a fan of the architecture. I imagine if I ever go to France, I'd be interested in seeing the Notre Dame Cathedral. I do have very happy memories. I was glad I was able to take my son when I was married. Took my wife and my son back then to the zoo and aquarium, as well as a couple museums. I enjoyed it, and my son enjoyed it quite a bit too. Heck, I remember back then coming home and my son would be going, "Daddy, Daddy," happy and excited to see me home. I'd read him books every day. Heck, I remember when I first started this channel, I tried to read some of the Winnie the Pooh book for live streams, but my voice sounded really weird. I sounded like a demon. 'Cause, well, anytime I'd read the books to my son, I'd sound really happy and cheerful and smiling, and he'd be smiling. And he'd really enjoy me reading the books to him. But when I tried reading for the live stream, there's no way I could get my mind not on the fact that I was reading to a fucking computer and not to my child. And I felt very upset over that. And my anger and my grief, my rage and my sadness, basically a lot of angry and sad feelings came through in my voice, and I basically sounded like a fucking demon, which I would never sound that way reading the story to my child, but it's just the fact that I was reading to a computer. It made me feel very sad and very angry that I was reading to that and not my child. Heck, for the first year and a half or so after the divorce, my son was coming over on the weekends and spending the night. I'd spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours just reading him books, and he'd be happy, and a lot of times I'd finish a book and especially a lot of the smaller books. Like there's a book called The Squirrel's Tale, and heck, even that small baby bunny book. Even though that stuff was meant more for younger ages than he was at the time. But a lot of the smaller books I'd read them, and as soon as I finished it, especially that Squirrel's Tale book, he'd want me to read it again. He'd be begging me to read it again. Sometimes I'd read it 3 or 4 or 5 times, and even after that, he'd want me to read it to him again. But I'd be like, that's enough. That's enough. Let's do some other stuff. And I'd take him to the park every time, and heck, I remember teaching him to walk, buying him special shoes to make it easier to walk, and heck, I remember this mall that I'd take him to back then. Now, granted, I think around the time I was going through the divorce, they remodeled that mall and changed the play area to something that was meant for older ages, I guess. They made it smaller, allowed some more stores around that area, and it's more so like a slide and some various other things, it's okay. I took him to that a couple times because I was still technically married at that time, and he still had some fun with that. But I remember initially when I took him there, it was a really large play area, and the ground was much, much softer, almost like walking on foam. And it had like a space shuttle thing, and a bunch of planets, and some of the planets you could climb on, and some had like tunnels through them. And I remember being down on my hands and knees, just going around everywhere with him on that, and sometimes helping him to walk on that when he was real young. And he had a blast. He had a lot of fun with that. And I'm glad I was able to. Heck, I haven't been to the zoo or a place called Kosai. It's a place in a really big city called Columbus. It's a bit of a drive from here, but still, I'm glad I was able to take him when I had the chance. I haven't been to the Kosai or the Columbus Zoo and Aquarium since the last time I took him, back when he was like 2. He had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun going, and most of all, I had fun taking him. Heck, I remember I basically did just about everything. Not only was I at work, but whenever I was home, I was predominantly always the person taking care of him. I changed his diapers, I fed him, I gave him baths, I read him stories, I took him to the doctors, I took him to the park, I took him to both of our parents. I would give him like 100 hugs a day. I would tell him I love you and I'm proud of you 100 times a day. I'd tuck him into bed at night. And a lot of times I'd wake up early before work and, take care of him, and then, well, I'd have to go to work. And then I'd come home from work and, well, it wasn't so bad at the beginning. A lot of times I could have my parents or her parents watch him a bit while I was at work. That way, things were much more attentive with him while I was, at work. But as things went on, she got more antisocial and aggressive and more insane. Heck, I think I've told you guys this story so many times. I have a 3-inch scar on my right arm from our last Christmas being married to my ex-wife by. He was 2.5. He was playing with his Christmas presents, and he was happy. And then she started screaming and yelling and cussing, and picking up his toys and breaking them in her hands and slamming them into the wall and kicking things. And well, a 2.5-year-old does. Apparently that makes a 2.5-year-old feel sad. It certainly made me feel sad. I felt very shocked and confused as to what was happening. And then, well, he was crying, and that made her more upset, and I stepped in between the two of them, which is good, because she lunged at me, and, well, if I hadn't stepped in between them, I wonder, she probably would have lunged at him, and, well, being a 2.5-year-old, he would have been less resistant to damage than a fully grown adult. And, well, grantedly, I was always much stronger than her, but I'm not a violent person. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy reading books like Edgar Allan Poe, watching violent movies, and playing violent video games, and watching violent anime. But I'm a very non-aggressive person. Heck, most of my life I've tried to live as a pacifist. I've only ever hurt anybody in self-defense, and I've never hit a woman, ever. Not even in self-defense. And, well, I've had lots of, I guess, opportunities would be the correct word. Just circumstances where I've been provoked very harshly, and I've not reacted. I guess many people would criticize me for that, call me a bit of a pussy. That in that situation, regardless of who it is, you ought to, be violent in response, but I just guess I'm not a strong enough, emotionally enough person to react violently to. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was times when I was younger when, you get jumped with 5 people beating the shit out of you in a back alley. You obviously fight back then, though obviously it is kind of hard to, especially one particular time, I think I was 13 at the time. 5 people. I think I got punched a few thousand times. I had a really large bruise on the left side of my temple. Stuck out for an inch. Side note, getting thrown into a brick wall and stomped on and kicked in the face repeatedly. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. Then again, I've already told you guys I got bullied a lot in school. But, that's different. That's, I know it sounds, perhaps a bit chauvinistic, and I guess people would even call it misogynistic of my part, but I can't really bring myself to punch a woman or slap a woman or anything. And even more so if it's somebody that, because as awful as it sounds, I still loved her at that time. And, when I married her, I viewed myself as her protector. It would have been one thing if we went somewhere and somebody threatened her, I would have, been violent to protect her, but it's another thing entirely when it's her that's the threat. I mean, heck, I remember the whole time she was pregnant, I remember reading stories and singing lullabies to her belly, and taking her to every OBGYN appointment, being their ultrasound. I was there when my son was born, and heck, I was able to take 2 weeks unpaid off from the job I had then. I stayed home and just spent the time taking care of her and our child. Though she felt it was a bit weird, for the first couple weeks when I was home from work, every time my child would cry, I would apparently sleepwalk to the crib and just pick up my son and start rocking him. I was fully fucking asleep because of how exhausted I was, but I would just sleepwalk to the crib and pick my son up and just start, cradling him and holding him and rocking him and then put him back in his crib. Though I also remember having to spray her vagina with Dermablast or whatever it was. I forget what it's called. Because she didn't have a C-section, but she had like a thing called an episiotomy, where they take like a fucking pair of scissors to the bottom of your vagina, which honestly was horrifying to watch. But obviously after delivery, they stitched her back together. Though we couldn't have sex for that first month because the doctor said it could kill her or something. Tear open the stitches and be a huge complication. So we waited till we had the doctor's okay on that. But like every day, a couple times a day, especially those first couple weeks, like there was stuff called dermablast where and she wasn't able to she was a bit too sore to be able to do it, and so I'd blast her at the bottom part of her vagina, would help with itchy and burning feelings from the stitches. But heck, I remember putting his crib together, and heck, it's kind of funny. I built his crib and put a bunch of Mario stickers all on the walls around, and a bunch of stuffed animals and all that stuff. And I remember building his toddler bed, though his toddler bed still sits in his bedroom, even though he's obviously too, tall to fit in it. But at the same time, hell, his car seat from when he was real younger is still in the car. I can't bring myself to bring it out. Heck, his bedroom is still the way it was since he was 2. Since I still live in the same apartment where it's my bedroom and his bedroom, but granted he hasn't been over here in a couple of years or so. Then again, I haven't been able to really talk to him for about a year, and I haven't been able to see him in person for 2 years, or give him a hug. And I'm pretty sure he, at the moment, I guess doesn't want a dad anymore. I feel very sad over that, but I understand the situation where, he's being raised by people that may be saying things to him. At the very least, it's still better that he's with them than his mother. After all, the whole reason why I agreed for him to live with them was because, his mom was going to run away and disappear with him, and he was going to die. So basically my options were agree with him to live with his grandparents or let my 3-year-old son basically be executed. That's basically what it amounts to. Yes, to some degree I'm being facetious, but I'm not. Especially given all the times, I've gone into detail about how fucking awful it was. And yes, I could have possibly eventually fought for more custody in that with the shared custody, but here's the thing. We all know she wasn't abiding by that stuff, and we all, I've discussed how horrible things got to the point that it became very clear that if I did not agree to him to be with them, he was going to die. So I made the choice I had to protect my son. Though I suppose most other people, between that and the adultery, probably would have just, I guess be violent would be the least. I mean, and I'll be honest, I know it sounds bad, but I was extremely furious at my wife cheating on me, even though she was already kind of a psychotic bitch. Part of me still felt this person's a psychotic person, but at least this person wouldn't. But yeah, I was apparently very mistaken about that a lot. Apparently there was already cheating going on well before the one thing. So that's... And in the end, I tried to make the marriage work no matter what, just because, I didn't want my son to grow up in a broken home. And I thought I could fix things. Plus, I had really low self-esteem, so with everything happening, I kept blaming myself for my wife being violent and abusive. But hey, I got used to coming home every day to being yelled and screamed at and told how much I was hated every day. Which is particularly not pleasant when it was somebody that you thought cared about you. Like I said, when I married her, I thought she was going to be a good wife. Even when my son was born, and I was holding him when he was first born, I thought she was going to be a good mother, and I was very, very wrong. I still tried to make it work. And heck, even as things progressed, I still loved her. I still cared about her. I sincerely was trying my hardest to save my marriage. Even when we were filing for divorce. Heck, I remember before, and granted this is stupid of me to say this, but it was stupid of me to say this to her, but right before we went in to see the judge, I told her we didn't have to get a divorce. You know? Now, we could still try to fix things. She just has to, not mistreat me or her child. Our child. And, not cheat on me. And also get, tested for STDs. And just agree to not be an abusive, psychotic, domestic violence. Granted, I probably worded it much nicer than most people would have. I basically was like, hey, we don't have to get divorced, and, just have to, get tested and not cheat on me or, be violent. And she laughed at me, so. Though it's odd, about a week after the divorce is official, things were so bad that, I had to sign my son with her parents in order to keep her from basically killing him. And a week after that, the guy she left me for ditched her. And a week after that, she was begging me to take her back. She was literally asking me to remarry her. She was wanting to go to the courthouse and just sign the document. She didn't want to go get her wedding. She wanted to she was expecting me just to say yes. But she was wanting me to remarry her. And she was so shocked and surprised when I told her no. I mean, I put up with a lot of shit, but that was, because I was trying to do what I could for the sake of my child. But at that point, and that's another good thing about me signing that one thing. One, by signing that one thing for my son to be with them, it protected my son from her. Granted, it's the same people who raised her, obviously they're kind of, I guess, must have some issue against me given my current alienation from my child. But at the very minimum, I know this. They are taking much better care of him than what she would have. And he would have died long before he ever turned 5 years old had I not agreed to that, because the way she was. Heck, I remember one time I was going toward the tail end of the divorce when we still lived together. He had gotten that really large teddy bear really dirty. Basically a bunch of poop all over it. So I used the one vacation day I had from the job I had and called in, and me and him went to a laundromat where they had a giant oversized wash machine, and so we could wash the thing. We also played a little bit of the arcade games there, and I gave him some snacks. But here's the thing, as that giant teddy bear was in a washing machine, he was trying to hug the teddy bear through the washing machine. Now, his little reindeer stuffed animal is currently in his room, but the giraffe, he's had that over there with him for a couple years, though I hope he hasn't thrown it away or anything. That he had that stuffed animal from a very young age. Heck, I'm a bit sentimental about things. I still have the blanket I had as a small child. Granted, I can't really cover up with it. It's, torn and has holes in it and it's faded. A lot like my soul. My soul is very faded and has a lot of holes in it and has a lot of tears in it. But I'm a bit sentimental, so I still keep my soul. Same with that blanket. It's a Mickey Mouse blanket with it's a Winter Olympics. It's got Mickey Mouse skiing. But But yeah, I have a 3-inch scar on my right arm. She lunged at me, dug into my arm with her nails. She stopped when she saw the blood, and then she went to our room. My son looked so terrified. I reassured him everything was fine. I went and grabbed a hand towel, put it on my arm. I think I put a little duct tape on my arm to hold it in place, and then I just sort of sat with him and calmed my child down. Tried to make him feel better. I think I wore long sleeves for about 3 months so no one could see that. I didn't need stitches, though. Heck, I remember a few months after the divorce, when one of the times he came over to spend the weekend, me and him were playing in the living room. He fell forward. You guys have seen the videos, that TV stand I have. He hit his head on that TV stand and scratched his forehead. It was bleeding, and I was very, well, I was like, what? Because it's like, I don't understand, like, why he's bleeding. And so I immediately just pick him up. I run to the back door where the kitchen is, and I grab this ice thing. I call it Cold Puppy. Then again, I think I still have that, and I think I have the decorations for his 3rd birthday party up from his cake, as well as, heck, I think I have all this. I think I still have actually his pacifiers, his binkies from when he was young, still sitting in my freezer. But that's beside the point. I went and grabbed the Cold Puppy in a small washcloth, did his tiny spot clean, and then gave him that and the Cold Puppy, and said, okay, hold the Cold Puppy to your head and keep holding it there. That way it helped him not hurt and helped stop bleeding. And then I just immediately picked him up, went out the back door, and then ran with him to the car, put him in the back seat, in the little car seat thing, and then drove straight to the hospital. And then as soon as I got to the hospital and had him in front of a doctor, I then pulled out my cell phone and called, his grandparents, because, I wasn't going to make a phone call while driving because it wouldn't be safe, and I wasn't going to, make a phone call while at home because, that's just like, hey, buddy, or like, how about you just stand there and bleed for a bit while I talk to people on a phone? That would be really stupid. Like, I had to immediately just prioritize getting him to the doctor as soon as possible. And of course, the whole drive there, because it's only a few minutes drive away, it's very close. But the whole time I'm driving there, I'm like looking in the rearview mirror, double checking him, telling him to like ask like if he's okay and to keep holding the Cold Puppy to his head. And then of course I called him as soon as he's with the doctor. Though apparently both the doctor and his grandparents felt I had overreacted in terms of that it wasn't that bad of a cut and I could have just, treated it myself at home, but I saw that he was bleeding and I wanted to take him to the doctor as soon as possible. Heck, even though I was really, really sleep deprived back then, because most of my time was spent either at work or anytime I was at home, I was either taking care of my child or getting yelled at by my wife. A lot of times she didn't really want to let me sleep. I'd be trying to sleep and she'd either wake me up or at that point my child would cry or something and she'd wake me up to take care of him, or she'll try to kill me in my sleep a couple times, so that's also disconcerting. But I mean, I think that's probably normal, right? Like, how many of you guys have had your romantic partner try to murder you in your sleep a couple times? I mean, I felt unhappy about that, but maybe I'm being a bit of a baby about it. But Yeah, it just, I don't know. I was thinking about the dinosaur book, you know? Like, one, it, it's a sentimental thing. My mom got that for me. And plus, I really like dinosaurs and, books and documentaries on, dinosaurs and stuff like the Jurassic and the Paleozoic and all that stuff. I know, yes, that makes me sound like such a nerd that I'm the kind of person who would watch like the History Channel, like watch like World War II and World War One documentaries, or I like watching things about times of the dinosaurs, or how airplanes work, or how the weather works, or stuff about outer space, or stuff about microbiology, or about atoms, or how nukes and stuff. It's just, then again, I also like to watch a lot of anime and read comics, and I have a guitar and a keyboard and books on how to draw manga. Heck, I have the Tenchi Muyo OVAs. So I guess I am just a little bit of a nerd. But it's just, one, I really like the dinosaur book because, I'm kind of a nerdy person. I like the, but also, it was from my mom. I appreciate that. It's a sentimental type thing. Heck, if I had that book right now, which I think I might try to find a version of it, or at least something close to it, online, and buy a new copy. But it's a shame the old one got destroyed. That made me sad, but I mean, but it's just, I would like to be able to take that book over to my mom's house and sit at the kitchen table with her, like I did when I was younger, and read that book with her. Heck, I remember my mom reading books to me as a child, too, when I was younger. Like The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, or Little Bunny Foo-Foo, and stuff like that. And various other books. Like, I think everyone's familiar with, like, what's it called? The guy who rhymes, Dr. Seuss. Various books. But it's just, I remember, heck, I have fond memories as a kid playing Mario 1, Mario 3, and Spyro the Dragon with my mom, and she liked playing a bit of Robo Warrior. So I would like to sit and play video games with my mom again. I would like to be able to sit at the kitchen table with her and read that dinosaur book again and point to the various cool pictures. Heck, there were even sections where like there was stuff with 3D glasses and you could see dinosaurs and it was all 3D and stuff. But granted, yes, it definitely very nerdy on my part. Like, had a bunch of like dates and how many millions of years ago a particular dinosaur existed, and the various stats of how much it weighed and how big it was. Like, yes, I mean, looking back, maybe that makes me sound a bit autistic. I might be. I don't know. Apparently, according to all the online internet tests, apparently I have severe depression, severe autism, severe ADHD, and borderline personality disorder, apparently. So, but that's according to the internet. So, but heck, I'd like it not only to sit and read that book with my mom, but I'd also like to have that dinosaur book and sit at my kitchen table and, sit and read it with my son and see him be like fascinated and excited at the various like dinosaur facts and pictures, and for me and him to talk about it. And and talk about dinosaurs. But I know that just sounds, well, I'm just a big nerd, I guess. Then again, I'm the kind of person, like, I would like to go to a history museum and see, like, assembled fossils like a T-Rexes and stuff. I like museums. Whether it be art or history and whether it be history of, like, trains or airplanes or space stuff or planetariums or an art museum or a history museum. Like, and granted, the Holocaust Museum was kind of depressing, but I was also really fascinated by everything there. But it was also kind of depressing. But I like looking at, the museums of stuff like old wars, like World War I museums, or like a museum that's like, hey, here's a large full-size thing of like a woolly mammoth or something like that, or like I'm the kind of person I would find like a full-size assembled like fossil. I think that'd be cool. But I guess all of this just makes me sound really stupid. Heck. I make sure to avoid telling other people I talk to myself. I mean, I guess it perhaps sounds a bit normal for Let's Play, but I mean, I go walk on bike trails and stuff, I talk to myself. Then again, I tend to talk to animals, like, as if they're people. Especially in times I've had a pet. That's like a long time ago. But I remember for the first like year and a half after the divorce, he was coming over and spending the night on the weekends. Watched a lot of Paw Patrol, Blue's Clues, went to the library, went to the park, took him over to see my parents. Well, mainly my mom. But went outside, flew kite with him, played ball. I used to have a little bit of a yard. Sometimes we'd spend a couple hours in his bedroom playing Hot Wheels and with the various toys, or sit in the living room, play with like this construction set and toys like that, or I'd take him to Burger King. But that being said, for the first 5 years after the divorce, I spent a couple hours every day sitting in my son's bedroom, talking to his stuffed animals, sometimes crying, sometimes reading them books, as if, the stuffed animals, could listen. A lot of times I'd pick up the stuffed animals and give them a hug while standing in his room. And granted, I really didn't spend time in there too much talking to them when he was over, because I was able to spend the time with my child. But even though I was really happy having my son over and hugging him and reading him stories, I always felt a bit sad on the inside, because I knew, he'd have to go back at the end of the weekend, and I couldn't, even though I had that time with him, couldn't stop thinking about all the time during the week that I was missing out on spending with my child, and how even that wasn't what I had planned when he was born and I was holding him as a newborn. Heck, I remember when he was younger, when I'd give him a bath, I'd dry him up in a dry warm towel, and then I'd wrap him up like a burrito because I didn't want him to get sick. And while he was drying up the rest of the way, I'd rock him gently back and forth and be like, baby burrito in the deep blue sea. Swims so wild and he swims so free. And he'd giggle at that and say, I love you, Daddy, and I'm a burrito. And then, of course, once he was dry, get him dressed in his PJs and all that stuff. And I wanted him to know that he was very much loved and that I wanted to do everything I could to be a good father. But yeah, for the first 5 years after the divorce, I spent basically a couple hours a day sitting in his bedroom, talking to his stuffed animals. Nowadays, I only spend about 15 minutes a day in there. Eventually, I'm going to have to probably move. Heck, my mom's mentioned that whenever Dad dies, she'd probably have to come move in with me because she'd probably know where to go. And to be honest, I don't want to live with my mom again. But I love my mom very much, and I would never let my mom be homeless. Granted, it would be a bit financially difficult and very cramped, but, it's not a big apartment. But as long as I have a place to live, I would make sure my mom has a place to live. Though I imagine that situation, I'd be letting her basically have my son's bedroom. I guess I can take a lot of his toys and stuff and just put them in my bedroom. Though I refuse to take those glowy stars that I've shown you guys in videos. The glowy stars that I have up on his walls that I made constellations with. I refuse to take those down. Heck, my shower curtain is still Paw Patrol. I still have a Paw Patrol shower curtain. It's been there for since I moved into this apartment. Like eternity ago. But yeah, he was coming over on the weekends for the first year and a half or so, but then there was the COVID pandemic or whatever. So there was lockdowns and stuff with the government, I guess. And so I went a year and a half. I mean, I'd drop his presents off and talk to him on the phone and stuff, but I couldn't really. And then after that, I was able to start seeing him in person again after the whole COVID stuff. And I usually was seeing him about 4 to 6 times a year. But since before COVID, he only came over here once since then. And it was about 2 years ago. About maybe 4 or 5 months before the last time I got to see him in person. But he was over here just for an hour to pick up Christmas presents about a month or so after Christmas. Though his grandparents spent that entire hour over there with us too. Hovering over us for some reason. But yeah, most of the other times I saw him was either at the park or going over there to see him over there. And there's there's a park over there near where he lives. But I know the last time I saw him in person, I was able to give him a hug, tell him how much I love him and I'm proud of him. And we went to a park. He had a blast. He had a ton of fun. He talked my ear off about a lot of things. It certainly reminds me of the way I talked as a child. And he looks exactly like I did back then. But he had a lot of fun. And the last things he was saying to me before I left that day was that he wanted me to stay longer. And he was begging his grandparents for me to not only stay longer that day, but he was wanting me to come by the next day and the next weekend too. And they were saying, oh, that they'd be busy and that maybe the weekend after I might be able to come back over. And me and him both agreed. But of course, we all know how that turned out. But my own feelings about missing my son are not important when compared to just the concern about his well-being and safety, and that's all that matters. He's alive, he's safe, he's happy, he's healthy. That's all that matters. Though he might be getting taught to hate me or something, I don't know. But at the end of the day, really nothing I can do about it. And as long as he's being well taken care of, I just want what's best for my child. And as he gets older, I'll always be there for him whenever he wants me to be. Yes, admittedly, the way things are, as well as things that he has said, that hurts my feelings. And after all, it hurts my feelings because I care about him so much. But I don't blame him for that stuff. He's really young, and I don't think he understands. That being said, I'm never going to tell him the stuff about his mother, because I feel like that would cause him psychological damage, and I don't want to make him suffer. I want him to be able to have as much of a normal childhood as possible. But no matter what, I am upset about things, but I'll always be patient with him, and I will always love him, and I'm very proud of him, and I'll always be there for him anytime he needs me. And of course, I always want to be able to, maybe take him to the zoo again one day. Give him a hug. Lift him up in the air again. Whether it be lifting him up in front of me with my arms, under his armpits, or even, heck, I remember a time when I was younger, he'd ride on the back of my neck. It's just, I am upset about stuff. Heck, to a large degree. It's been a bit of a process of me grieving my grief over how much I miss my son. I feel like I lost my family. I feel like my family was stolen from me. And it still hurts. I don't think it'll ever stop. And that's fine. I don't think it's supposed to. And granted, I don't express these feelings in public, but I know a lot of times if I hear, whether at a Walmart or a restaurant, I hear a little baby crying or a small child looking at their parents and saying, "Daddy, Daddy," I feel extremely sad and like I want to just start crying, but I don't. I don't express that, because it'd be really weird to express those emotions in public in front of strangers. I remember a time when I was going through my divorce, I came home and thought my son was dead. He had been locked up in his bedroom the whole day when I was at work. Then again, I've gone into detail in various videos and community posts talking about how things were, how she was about things. And that's more reason, like, why would I ever get married again? What, so I can go through another divorce? So I can be in another legally binding contract with the government to be stuck with an abusive, psychotic, adulterous partner? So I have to be worried about how much my child is being neglected and abused while I'm at work. So I have to have another child taken away from me and lose another family? To deal with the emotional feelings I felt having my wife bring another man into my home and then watch her walk out the front door with my son? To be betrayed by someone you thought you could trust? To have someone you thought you could feel safe around, and my phone is ringing. It's probably a spam call. That's usually 99.99% of all the phone calls I receive. I appreciate my phone tells me it's a telemarketer. It's just... why would I ever put myself through that again? Why would I ever want to go through another divorce? Why would I ever want to be in a legally binding contract forcing me to be with someone who is violent and abusive and emotionally abusive, especially, like every day just yelling at you and saying the most horrible fucking things, as well as, you know, you're living with someone who's cheating on you, and then of course you have to keep living together for a little bit because you're having to deal with the legal issues of divorce, plus, you know, there's a child involved and you don't, you know, want the child to be put into an endangered situation, and you want to, even if it means having your adulterous wife living with you during the divorce things, well, I can at least make sure to be involved in my son's life and make sure that he's being well taken care of to the best of my ability, at least while I'm not at work. But why would I want another child taken away from me? Why would I want to lose another family? I don't miss my ex-wife at all. Heck, I feel like I view her like a fucking SCP. Like she's a fucking cryptid. Like I feel physically unwell. Like just the idea of talking to her or being around her in any way makes me feel nauseous. It makes me feel like I think the best way to describe it is, you know, like that, like how you would feel like, you know, that SCP, like cryptid thing, like the creepypasta, like the rake. You know that thing called the rake that's in a creepypasta? You know that emotional feeling you have with that? Or like the Uncanny Valley stuff? Like the general feeling of dread? That's how I feel. Like... and again, like I said, I'm physically stronger than her, but it's just... I feel ill and generally scared and uncomfortable in regards to her. Heck, I remember at the tail end of our divorce, you know, like I said, we're still living together. And she was... and like I said, most of my marriage, me and her, were actively having a lot of sex. But at the very end of it, I didn't want to have sex with her anymore because she was getting raw dogged and cream pied by another man and I thought that was gross and disgusting, and I didn't want to touch her. However, she still wanted sex. Was turning her down a lot. Were a couple times where she didn't take no for an answer and just kept forcing herself on me. But hey, at least I still wore a condom. But, yeah, extra complications of still living with a person you're becoming divorced from. The amount of verbal insults I got and yelled at me on a daily basis were not the best. It's not the best. Looking back, I can also say something else. Not a single person I ever had sex with was a virgin. Heck, the lowest body count out of, here's the thing. Every woman I was ever in a relationship with cheated on me. Heck, even the women I went on dates with, who I wasn't having sex with, were already, fucking other dudes on the side, even though I didn't know at the time. Though usually people, when they found out that the date wasn't really working out as far as what they wanted, they made sure to brag about that, so that was... But I will say this, lowest body count any woman I was ever with had before me was 9. In general, my experiences with women have not been the best. Heck, I remember back in the past when I really was trying to ask people out and stuff, I got rejected by thousands and thousands and thousands of people IRL. I suppose the biggest red flag would have been when it came, that I really should have noticed when it came to my ex-wife, was that she was the one who asked me out. So, yeah. But yeah. It's just, I don't want to ever go through another divorce again. And I don't want to ever be married to somebody to where, if they suddenly become violent and abusive or cheating on me, I don't want to have to deal with a legal document that has to be handled with the government before I can break up with someone. I would rather it be that if somebody's cheating on me or violent, I can just immediately break up with them and not have to worry about a legal document with the government saying I have to be with the person. And I don't want to lose another family. I don't want to have another child taken away from me. And I don't want to chance having another child who then has to deal with a parent like my son's mother. Heck, I want to read some of that Winnie the Pooh book. I'm gonna grab some of those books out of his bedroom. This is not, technically, this is a video where I'm supposed to be reading a video game, I guess, but I'm not really doing that well, am I? I really do want that dinosaur book. I want to be able to get it and sit in the kitchen with my mom and at her place, and I want to just read that book with my mom. I want to sit and play video games with my mom again. And I want to sit and play video games with my son, and I want to read books to my son again. And I want to give both of them hugs. I want to give my mom a hug, and Well, at least I can still give my mom a hug when I go visit her like once a month. So, I play Battleship with my mom. I would like it if I could eventually get my mom into like playing like Final Fantasy IX or something, but I doubt she'd ever play something like that. And heck, I think my son would like it too, but again, I don't know. I want to grab those books. I'll be back. Hold on. I went and felt my laptop again real quick. It actually feels pretty cool. So even though I'm using that external fan for the laptop, it seems to stay cooler than it ever was with the internal one. But I got 2 books. One is the Winnie the Pooh storybook collection. And another one's a book called You Can Count on Me by Corin Friels, illustrated by Lizzie Walkley. Let your little one know that you'll always be there, no matter what. It's got a picture like a teddy bear hugging another teddy bear. They're walking and there's like butterflies and stuff. Also pine cones and acorns. So it's a lot of really adorable pictures. Like I said, I suggest if you have a child, I'd suggest buying both of these books. I think you guys would like it. But yeah, You Can Count on Me by Corin Friels. KORYNNFREELS. They're all smiling and huggy and stuff. If you should ever need someone to brighten up your day, just count on me, and you will see I won't be far away. Let's say you spill your berries. Look, I'll spill my berries too. Oh wait, instead of dropping mine, I've got enough for 2. And should there be some trouble or a mishap in your plan, I'll be right there to help you out as quickly as I can. Whenever you are feeling sick, I'll rush there in a minute to fix you up a secret soup. Just never ask what's in it. If spooky things sneak in your dreams, then I will chase them out. I'll show that spooky stuff who's boss with one enormous shout. If someone hurts your feelings, I'll be there to wipe your tears and help you keep out all their words by plugging up your ears. Let's say you fall and scrape your knee or get a painful sting. To make sure that you're A-OK, I'll bandage everything. It's got a lot of adorable pictures. If you do something well, I'll celebrate how great you are. Get ready for a grand parade where you will be the star. If things don't seem to go your way, or when you're full of smiles, I'll wrap you in a big bear hug and sit with you a while. No matter what tomorrow brings, I'll show you that I care. Just count on me like 1, 2, 3. I promise. I'll be there. If you have enjoyed this book or has it touched your life in some way, we would love to hear from you. Please send comments to Hallmark Book Feedback, P.O. Box 419 9034. Mail drop 100. Kansas City. MO? Is that Montana? Why would you have a Kansas City in Montana? C as 64141. Or email us at booknotes@hallmark.com. Kind of reminds me, I made a Binding of Isaac video like 4 or some years ago where I didn't give any commentary. I just sang a silly little song. You are my sunshine, my only sun. Shine. You make me happy when clouds are gray. You'll never know, dear. Just just how much I love you. So please don't take my sunshine away. Let's try to read the Disney Winnie the Pooh storybook collection. The Winnie the Pooh storybook collection is a selection of 15 charming stories created a show. I apologize for that little interruption. My hands are shaking a little. I'm sorry about that. The Winnie the Pooh storybook collection is a selection of 15 charming stories created to show little ones what it means to be a true friend. Come along with Pooh and friends as they learn about sharing and caring, working together and missing each other when they're apart, putting friends first and building friendships that last, stories to last a lifetime. The Disney Winnie the Pooh storybook collection. It's a good book. It's made. It's New York Disney Press. I'm looking for a year this came out. You guys can buy your own copy because books are good. It's got 300 pages and it's got lots of pictures in it. And though I don't see a publisher page anywhere. Maybe it's after the table of contents. Oh, here it is. It's got a little drawing of the Winnie the Pooh and more like it's copyright 2012 in Disney Enterprises. I don't see where this was. It made in 2012. All rights reserved. Where's for information, address Disney Press, 114 5th Avenue, New York, New York. You know, I've never been to New York. Maybe one day I should go see the Statue of Liberty. I'll read the table of contents real quick. I don't think I'll read the whole book. On page 1 is a portrait of friendship. Page 21 is hide and Pooh seek. 43 is the sweetest of friends. 63, bounce with me. 83, the Pooh sticks game. 103, don't be ridiculous. 123, friendly bothers. 141, better than honey. 161, forget me not. 181, owl's reading lessons. 201, under the weather friends. 221, a bountiful friendship. 241, owl will be seeing you. 261, Piglet the Brave. And 281, Roo, stay away. We're going to read a portrait of friendship. It's got really cool pictures in this book. You guys should totally buy the Winnie the Pooh storybook collection. I think it's a good book. It has the Lunar D8 seal of approval as good book. Piglet painted pictures of everything in the 100-acre woods. He painted the tall, leafy trees and the bright yellow sun and flowers every size and color. One day, Piglet decided he wanted to paint what he loved best of all in the wood, his friends. Piglet asked Pooh, Rabbit, Kangaroo, and the rest of his friends if they would each sit for a portrait. I'd be honored, said Pooh. Everyone else felt the same way. next day, Piglet set up his studio outside in the sunshine. He was ready to begin with Pooh. Piglet soon saw Pooh heading his way, but he walked right by. "Pooh, wait," cried Piglet. "It's time to sit for your portrait." "Oh, is it, is that now?" Pooh asked. "I thought it was time to fill up my honey pot and my tummy." Pooh didn't want to let down his friend. "All right, Piglet," he said. "You can paint my picture now. I'm sure my tummy can wait," he added, though he was not at all certain. "Now try to sit still, Pooh," Piglet said. Pooh did, but his tummy did not. It rumbled to the left, and it rumbled to the right. Finally, Pooh's tummy rumbled up onto his feet. "Sorry, Piglet, but perhaps now is not a good time to sit still after all," said Pooh as he picked up his honey pot and followed his tummy. Piglet tried painting Rabbit next. He worked for a few minutes and then gave Rabbit a bunch of carrots to hold. "These remind me of my garden," said Rabbit, jumping up, "and my garden reminds me that I have work to do." "I'm sorry, Piglet, but we'll have to finish another time." Rabbit hurried off. "One moment." Okay, I'm back. Tigger had no trouble with Piglet painting his picture. The trouble was all Piglet's, since Tigger couldn't stop bouncing with excitement. "Sorry, Piglet, but bouncing is what Tiggers do best," Tigger cried. While Piglet waited for Tigger to stop bouncing, Kanga and Roo arrived. They were excited to have their family portrait painted. But Tigger was so excited to see Roo, he snatched up his little buddy and the two bounced off into the wood. Piglet had much better luck with Eeyore, who sat as still and as gray as a rock. Eeyore, yours is the only portrait I've been able to finish," said Piglet. "That's too bad," said Eeyore. "Everyone else had too much to do," said Piglet. "I'm just doing what I always do, too." "Too, not much," said Eeyore. Then he lumbered off to do not much somewhere else. Piglet thought for a moment. "That's it," he cried. "I need to paint my friends doing what they always do." Piglet packed up his art supplies and went to find Pooh. He painted Pooh following a bee. Then he painted several bees following Pooh. Piglet especially liked the painting he did of Pooh finally getting a smackerel of honey. Piglet went to Rabbit's garden next, and instead of asking Rabbit to stay still, he stood and painted while his subject moved about in his garden. He painted several wonderful scenes of Rabbit at work. As for Tigger, it gave Piglet a bit of a headache to follow his bouncing with his eyes, but he finally managed to paint Tigger's portrait. Piglet couldn't wait to show everyone his portraits. He invited his friends to view them. Pooh and the others walked around and looked at one painting after another. They were very silent, which was unusual. Piglet began to worry. Did his friends not like his artwork? Finally, Pooh cleared his throat. I'd like to say how... Oh, oh, uh, uh, what... Wonderful your paintings are, Piglet. Then he looked thoughtful. I'd also like to apologize. Whatever for, Pooh? Asked Piglet. For saying I'd sit still for you, and well, and then, well, not sitting still, said Pooh. Everyone else agreed with Pooh. Everyone except Eeyore. Thank you, Piglet said, but sitting still isn't what anybody does best. He looked at Eeyore, except Eeyore, that is. Piglet continued, everyone is good at something different. My paintings show you all doing the something you love best, and they will always remind me, he added, of how lucky I am to have so many unique and wonderful friends. The end. I apologize we never got to read any umineko. Well, I know I say I'll try not to go on tangents, but I guess this whole video's been nothing but one. I'll try to focus on this story next time, but until then, I hope everyone has a good day, and I yeah, bye everybody. Until next time. Bye.